Welcome, everybody, to the One to Go show presented by Dirt Track Supply. Happy holidays, everybody. It's that time of year. Happy Hanukkah. It is Ryan Aho. It is Bert Lehman. It is Puka with the holiday cap from one of Ryan's longtime sponsors, Tom and Jerry's Bar. And so welcome, fellas.
Chisholm, Minnesota. You got to get Tom and Jerry's. Got to get there.
Absolutely. Especially this time of year. Have a Tom and Jerry's. It's perfect. Especially today after about 8 inches of snow.
Yeah, my parents are up there in Chisholm, and they said they got over 10. They're going to Arizona. Okay, Dad, I know you're listening to the show. What the hell are you thinking? Donkey award to my dad, okay? Because here's the deal. They're planning on leaving. They're going to Arizona. They're going to leave Friday, then Saturday. No, let's wait until you got a foot of snow on the ground and then go. What are you thinking? You should have left 2 days ago. Let me get in trouble. I'm going to be grounded now. 47.
Are they driving?
Grounded. Yeah, they're driving down there.
Oh, so, boy.
Yeah, they should have left a couple days ago. I don't know what the heck they were thinking. They knew the forecast was coming. I would have been long gone. But now they got to wait another day or two, and then they're heading south. So, dirt tracks. Go ahead, Bert. What do you got?
Well, I was just going to say, we got about 5 inches of snow here, too. So that's going to be my job after we're done recording this, is cleaning my driveway.
So is it done for you, or is it still coming?
It's pretty much done for us now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So most of it must have moved over the lake or something.
I mean, a little bit further north of me, probably like just a half hour north, got several more inches than what we got. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we got a bunch too. We got 0 inches. So I mean, we just got pounded 0 inches of snow here in Illinois. So that is a huge benefit to not being in northern Minnesota. And Puka, you mentioned Dirt Track Supply over in Watertown, South Dakota. Of course, Watertown represent at the Gateway Dirt Nationals. And that Aero chassis, they need to get that down there because Trevor, he's a guy that he races hard against Tyler Peterson. That's his type of track. Maybe they take the whole contingent from the Casino Speedway and bring them to Gateway next year. But in the meantime, this is the time of year, get your Christmas presents bought. Get your parts that you need for the off season. Get your car together. Ron and Trevor do a great job over there in Watertown Dirt Track Supply. Give them a call. So, what do you guys say we start with, right? Episode 109 and a blast to the past. But I'm going to do a little bit of a trivia twist. Of course, brought to you by Impact Health Sharing. And if you or anybody you know, or if you're a business owner and you're paying too much for healthcare, like everybody else, get a hold of us. We'll see if maybe we can help you out there. But 109, 09, I don't think any of us have a 109, do we?
I do not.
So fans, if you got a 109, post it in the comments, post a picture, post a story. We don't have one. We have some 09s. We have some 9s. We have one we're going to hold off on. Bert, you said you have an 09 from Eastern Wisconsin, don't you?
Yes, I have an 09 from Eastern Wisconsin. He raced at Shawano Speedway in the 1970s. His name was Tom Greenlee. He was 09. And whenever I would look at the standings, they always listed, their hometown. And what always intrigued me about him was he was actually from Northern Illinois and drove up to Shawano Speedway every Saturday night to race. So that always caught my attention. And that's why I've always remembered him. So, yeah, number 09, Tom Greenlee.
There you go. So we're going to do a little trivia edition here. I'm going to challenge you two. I'm going to keep track. There's some tough ones. There's some that are pretty easy. And basically, we don't have a buzzer, right? We don't have that. But just hold your hand up and raise your hand. First one to raise your hand gets to answer. And we'll have some tabulations here. The winner is going to get a free car or something. Okay?
I'm ready.
So here we go. 2007 Eldora Dream winner.
Dan Schleeper.
C9 of Steve Casebolt.
Casebolt, yes.
Steve Casebolt. So nobody got a point there. So nobody got a point. So we need to do this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna deduct these off our overall points for our pickles. So Bert is -1. I'm gonna need that to win that deal. So there's a debate on this one. I'm gonna cross this one off because I don't believe that's his number. Okay, so we're gonna go with 1993 Labor Day Shootout winner in the late model division.
Take that one, Puka.
Mike Chamernick.
Mike Chamernick, the 09, was it Chisago? Is it Chisago City or
Chisago City, Chisago Lake, something like
that?
Right.
Yeah, of course, Mike Mackey, of course, him and his dad sponsored me forever. Family that related to the Chamernicks, and Mike and Mark both. They made a lot of laps, but I think Mike was kind of the stud. They had 09, and it looked to me like they took the 09 and they just literally flipped it upside down and got 60, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Mike was a heck of a race car driver back in the day, and it's been a while since some guys been at the racetrack. I think Mark maybe raced a little bit more recently than him. I think, kind of a not funny, but a side note, I believe that Mark might have shot Mike when they were deer hunting and kind of hurt his leg or something like that. Mike Mackey, if he's watching this, go ahead and post in the comments. You probably have the story on that one.
Jeez.
All right. Yeah, so here we go. This guy here, a man of many numbers, been racing for a long time. 6 Labor Day Shootout wins in the late model division. 1985, 1987, 1998, both days in 1999, and again in 2008.
Steve Larson?
Steve Larson. Yep, he was 19. His dad, I believe, was 15. Yep, he had a lot of numbers. He was number 9 for quite a while. I'll post some pictures on here of Steve Larson. Rumor has it that he might be liquidating his stuff. He might be calling it quits. He's been doing it a long time. Man, I hope he continues to race. He's been a legend on the dirt track scene for a long time. Okay, here we go. South Dakota.
Arment,
there you go. The next group is going to be 5-time Wissota national champ. 2001, he won the mods and the lates. In 04, and in 04, he won the late models. In 2005 and in 16, he won the modifieds. So it's showtime. Promoting
the only number 9 I know from that area.
There you go. All right, so Bert back in striking distance here. Really good in the super stock division in the early 1990s.
Don Ishins.
Nope.
Damn.
Nope. Okay, so that you don't get another pick. Here we go. Bert might get this one. Rick Auckland drove for him. Had a bullet chassis, Brainerd area. Tommy Thompson. Remember that name, Puka?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Tommy Thompson. He was really good in the super stocks, and then he was tied in with Auckland for a while. So let's go to this one. His Wisconsin driver. His brother builds Pro Power engines.
Sleeper. Oh, Sleeper.
First name.
Dan
Sleeper. There you go. Yep. Yeah, you guys have a story or two about old Sleeper. You kind of seen him race a time or two.
I interviewed him one year at one of the Scheffler Memorial races, and I asked him if he had any stories about. Yeah, it was the George Scheffler Memorial, the final one, and I asked him if he had any stories about racing with the Schefflers and stuff. He goes, "Oh, I have lots of stories, but I really can't repeat any of them."
Oh, that's so fun. We have to get a couple pairs in that guy and get some good stuff. That's what we're gonna have to do. All right, here we go. Superstock, 2-time Wissota Superstock national champion, 1997, and I'll reluctantly bring up 2001.
Ishins.
That would be the Iceman, Don Ishins. So Puka got that one right. Still getting after it. He's pretty quick in that SSR modified as well. All right, this is a tough one, Bert. I'm sorry, you're probably not going to get this one, but Puka might, okay? Served on the board at the Hibbing Raceway. Flagman, did track prep, won a ton of races back in the day, including, from what I understand, a Minnesota dirt track championship in the 60s or 70s. Holds some kind of a timing record with the IMCA. His son raced hobby stocks, super stocks, late models, hung around the Provenzino clan quite a bit.
Roger Carlson.
There you go. He was. Incidentally, He was 9 and K9, So we got pictures of them. We'll post them up here. But Roger Carlson, he actually got into the Hall of Fame at the Hibbing Raceway in 2013. So an inductee over there. The next one here, I flat out yard sailed this guy in a B main to get the final transfer spot. I think it might have been in the local portion of the USA Nationals, is what it was, over at the Cedar Lake Speedway. His son raced a car that looked pretty much identical to his.
Eisenberg.
Steve Eisenberg, that's correct. Yeah, he didn't like me that day. Incidentally, I kind of gave him the right recorder panel, kind of folded the tent on his front end, and it's like, we didn't come here to make friends, right? We kind of brought our own. So that was, you got any Eisenberg stories? He's from your neck of the woods, Bert.
I don't have any Eisenberg stories, but it reminds me of a question for you guys. You guys can play the game for one question.
All right.
Late model driver from Eastern Wisconsin who came out of retirement a couple of years ago and drove the number 9.
Tom Nair?
Well, Nair did drive the number 9, but
Tim Eisenberg?
He drove Eisenberg's car.
Oh, Casey. Terry.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Good old Terry.
Didn't you have the star in the 9? Isn't instead of just a round for the 9, it's a star for Nair or Casey or one of them?
No, Zidar has a star in the 9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was incidentally, we'll talk more about him in just a little bit. Jamie Zidar was a weapon down at Gateway. Okay, so this guy here, related to Corey Slusher. Massengills drove for him. Of course, John and Jeffrey, several guys did. I actually drove his car and won at East Bay in a modified.
John Carpenter.
Bert's like,
he showed up at Bemidji for the stand. I was out there.
Did he really?
A couple months ago. Yeah, he showed up late, of course. Showed up late at the start, the back of the B main, and it was just kind of fenders everywhere. But I was like, yeah. Also, he showed up. There he was. I'm like, I don't know if I saw him twice all year. Shows up in the middle of September, end of September.
Yeah, good old Carpenter. There's a guy right there where he'd always work right up to the last minute. I mean, he works like an animal, and he would show up to the track like right at the last minute. I can't tell you how many times he pulled in, like heat races already out there. One time he was so late, Bert, that he had enclosed, I think he had an enclosed or open trailer, but they put the trailer house tire on the right front kind of as a loading tire. And he actually ran the heat race with that tire on because he didn't have time to change it. So, kind of interesting cat there. Now, Hibbing, John Carpenter owned this car. Okay, and one time made the trip down to the Kentucky Lake Speedway in the 9 ride, running a modified. Parked next to Steve Casepole, incidentally.
Ryan Aho?
Good guess. That did not go very well. It went a lot better once we actually got the Galloper out there, other than that, the old Cobra car that he had. But we took the 9 ride down there. That was interesting. That's a fast racetrack. Of course, Kentucky Lake over in kind of by Calvert City closed down. But that was a beautiful facility just to get rid of it. Now, I don't know if either one of you will get this one, but just kind of on old time sake here, 6-cylinder driver at the Hibbing Raceway. He was an EMT for many years. Actually, the most recent time that I saw him, he was actually greeting people at Walmart, of all things, over in Hibbing. Number 9 6-cylinder from Hibbing. Tim Collier. Remember that name, Puka?
I don't. No.
Yep, that's one right there. Actually, I remember him. Okay, Puka, this one's for you. You ain't going to get this one either, Bert. You're a hockey guy. Greenway hockey name. Number 9T.
Got to be a Trombley.
It is a Trombley.
Got to be a Trombley. I was with a couple of the Trombleys yesterday.
Do you know the first name?
Gary?
Mike Trombley. I can't give it to you. The Trombley was easy with the T in Greenway hockey. I knew you would get that, but you wouldn't get that one. Bert might get this one right here. His son is a standout asphalt racer in eastern Wisconsin. Super stock driver in the early 1990s. Kind of raced over in that Marshfield, Wisconsin area. Had a Cobra chassis. who's a young standout asphalt driver over in eastern Wisconsin.
Oh, are you talking? What's his name now? Kraus.
Yep, that's correct. And do you know the dad's name? Because it's what Derek Krause, right? Runs the.
Derek is the son. Yeah. He was racing in the snowball derby today. I don't know how he did down there.
Okay, so his dad was Mark Krause.
Mark, okay,
really sharp looking car. I think I was at the track like one time that he was there, and I don't know that I ever raced against him. But you talk about Derek Krause. You said he's in the snowball derby. What's going on in his career right now? You kind of following that at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of years he's raced full time in the NASCAR Truck Series.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean he's made it up into the NASCAR ranks. I don't know how he's done there, but he has a full time ride, and that's half the battle right there.
That sure is. So kind of a second generation kid right there, getting a great opportunity. I'm not an asphalt guy, but he has dirt track ties, of course, with his dad. So there's a guy that we can keep an eye on.
And yeah, I mean, I've done a story on Derek before, and I interviewed his dad for that story. And his dad raced, and they were at one point they were both racing at the same time. And his dad said that he had to step away because he couldn't. He had to give his son the opportunity to try to achieve his dream of racing in NASCAR. So that's why he stepped away from racing so they could concentrate on his son racing.
Yeah, and it seems to be working out really well for him. So this one right here, this is one of Troy Power's favorite guys. He talks about this guy every year at some point. Iowa late model standout, 2015 Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame inductee with over 300 feature wins.
Jeff Akey?
Kurt Hansen. So I actually got this one from Kevin Carlson, late model guy up in northern Minnesota. He sent it over. He goes, I got a little ammo for the show. So thanks, Kevin Carlson, old Ragnar himself, sending that one over. Okay, 2009 FYE Mod Nationals champion over at the Viking Speedway in Alexandria. And I don't think he's raced. I think he had a lawsuit against Wasota. I believe he won. I don't think it got settled out of court. It was a Billy deal where they weren't measuring things properly, and it was a bad deal over at the Viking Speedway after the heat race. He went from 9, he had 9M, and then he had 999 at the end. He was a stud in the B mod, and got himself in a little trouble there for cheated up heads too at one point. Dale Matheson, remember that name, Puka?
Remember that name? Yes. Okay. Yep. Yes.
I got three more. 4 generations of this family race at the Gondikla Speedway in Superior, Wisconsin. Old super stock guy. He was the second of the 4 generations. His son raced supers. His grandson is now racing a Midwest mod and running very well.
I know it. I'm picturing the cars. I'm trying to get the name. The UPI.
It is.
Lillos.
Steve Revord.
Oh, Revor. Oh, yes, Revor. Yep. But one of the Lillos is 9.
Yep, I think that would be Aaron. Well, that wouldn't be Aaron. I think Tim Lillo is number 9. Tim. So, Hibbing guy, Puka. Hibbing guy. Ran a hobby stock, ran a super stock in the 90s. I think he works for the city of Chisholm. Pretty sure. Doesn't race anymore. May have dated for a while. We'll take the godfather of Kelly Lake Racing. He actually dated his daughter for a while. Joby Wolf.
Oh, yeah, Joby Wolf. Yes, Joby Wolf.
These are coming back for Puka. We got one last one.
Yes, and he does work for the city of Chisholm. He does work for this.
Yep, and then we got the last one here, the Dilly Bar guy over at the Proctor Speedway. DQ number 9, retired from racing, runs a business for that his dad started. Duluth driver, ran a Midwest mod, ran a modified, always had really sharp-looking cars. I bowled with this guy a little bit. Nick Lovato. Remember that name, Puka?
Lovato, yes. Yes.
So we had a lot of number 9s. It was kind of fun to kind of trump you guys. Puka won, but it wasn't even fair because it's over in our neck of the woods. So
hey, the fact that I got a few questions right, that's an accomplishment.
You did. So we got to
I do have a question for you guys, though.
All right.
I just thought of this because we talked about Tom Nayert earlier, and he won the Shawano Speedway Track Championship, late model track championship, I believe, in 1999. What was the significance of him winning the championship that year?
999?
No. He was the first driver since 1981, other than MJ McBride, Pete Parker, or Terry Avalink, to win the late model championship at Shawano Speedway.
That's a tough trio to definitely knock down there for sure. For sure. So, you guys got any more number 9s or 09s before we jump on to the next segment?
I have one more. I have a number 9. Bob Schmidt. He was a longtime racer. He raced in the sportsman division at the end. Well, fast track late models at the end. But he was a Shawano County sheriff, so he was the racing sheriff in eastern Wisconsin.
Nice. So now we'll get to it. That was fun for us. We like the nostalgia is kind of cool, bringing up some people that ain't been around racing for a while. Some of them ain't been around for a while, sadly. But let's get to the national recap, right? One major, huge event that we're all looking forward to talking about. Of course, Puka, this segment brought to you by...
Yes, Blue Line Brews once again. So there it is, the new packages. Everything's out. As a matter of fact, in northern Minnesota, you can start looking for Blue Line Brews at a store near you. BlueLineBrews.com, as always, link in the show links. So just go down there. You can link right over. It says right on the front of the bag, 10% of purchases help families of fallen or wounded officers. So which one's this? The steakhouse. This is a little darker roast. So like I said, this is what the label looks like. Some people might have them hanging. You can poke a hole here. So Blue Line Brews, coffee with a purpose, fantastic coffee. I got a box of it myself. It sat in my vehicle overnight, and my vehicle smelled like Starbucks the next day. So you want the good stuff, it's right here, Blue Line Brews.
Awesome. Well, I tell you what, fans, before we jump into the next segment, if you have any 9s or 09s or any stories, post them pictures in the comments. We just love, I mean, this is a time of year, not much racing going on, so it's kind of cool to have a look back in the past. But of course, this week, guys, the 5th annual Castrol Gateway Nationals down at the Dome at America's Center in St. Louis, Missouri. I know you guys got to watch them. Did you guys watch most of it or pretty much all the features?
I watched the entire program Thursday and Friday, except for the midget heats. And then I just saw the features yesterday. And then I went back and watched the 5th the 5th B feature, the one that Shepard won.
That was impressive. So I have a quote. I'm going to read this verbatim. Tell Puka to shove it up his butt. Can't make the 30 laps, my ass. Thanks, boss. That was incredible. How about it for the one TPO, Tyler Peterson?
Hey, I did make him at least one day.
Yeah,
I was the only one.
You did. You're right. Little shots fired. He's like, the heck with him. Can't make it 30 laps. He was impressive. He really was. You know, as far as our area, right? Like, that was the guy. There was no other drivers, no love for Wissota Racing down there. And I'll be honest, right? I look back at all the times that our guys used to go down to East Bay and down to Volusia and stuff. A lot of the Wissota guys went down and cleaned house. And this shows that our guys can still run with the best in the whole country. I mean, when you got Nick Hoffman and company there and he got it done, absolutely impressive. And the way he did it, he passed one of, where's Grabowski from? He's an IMC, Nebraska. He's an IMCA guy, right? From Nebraska?
Yeah, Nebraska.
What a move. I mean, he actually schooled him. He worked him high, worked him low. He actually went around, tried to poke to the top. And then, as you can see, Grabowski went high to kind of block, and he diamonded it back underneath him. I mean, he worked him over good. That was flat out impressive. You know, there was a big contingent from Wissota country down there. So he got a lot of love down there for sure. But let's go with this. Look, that was kind of the big news right there. Tyler Peterson, what a way to cap off the season, right? He started out with a win, maybe two, at least one down at the Wild West Shootout, right? He won down in Arizona. And then, of course, he went through the season. He became the 2021 Wissota Modified National Champion. And what a way to cap it off, because, guys, he's been trying for multiple years. Like, hey, I want to go. I want to get down to the Dome. And they would never send him an invite, right? Because it's invite only for the mods. And they're like, they wouldn't give him an invite. Well, they gave him an invite, and I tell you what, he made the most of it, parking in Victory Lane, $10,000 payday, pretty awesome for him. But with that said, I'm going to jump back up in my notes here. What stuck out to you? Let's start with any class you want. Midgets, modifieds. There was some drama, some pretty cool stuff in the late model division. What stuck out to you guys?
Well, my first, this was actually the first year where I actually watched the races, where in past years, I don't know if it was streamed in the past or not, but, I would just see highlights here and there of what happened. I guess I didn't realize all the carnage that takes place down there. I hope that some of the sponsors of that event are race car machine manufacturers and sheet metal manufacturers.
I brought my buddy Dave Dulciak down there that won the points there at Sycamore, and he looked at me, he goes, "There is no way in hell I would bring a car. Like it just wouldn't happen." I'm like, I would love racing there. I don't think I would like to bring my own car there because it looked really expensive. I mean, it is like a yard sale, but that turn and burn stuff is fun to me. But you're right. I mean, some of them races, it's like, are they literally driving by feel, or what are they doing? Because I mean, they were just, and then another thing, because it's so tight, right? And a lot of them are used to that no fault caution where if you stop, you go to the back. So how many times did we see it where cars are sideways and stop, and like the guys behind them got the wheels roasting, and they're like just driving through everybody, kind of like almost like a battering ram just to keep their cars going. I'm like, what is wrong with these people? I couldn't believe it. You're absolutely right, Bert. That was pretty intense. Puka, what stuck out to you?
Well, just a few things. I mainly caught the late models. Just, terrible weekend for Davenport, was just never on the radar. Bobby Pierce just couldn't kind of get out of his own way. Pretty disappointing there. But, of course, Carpenter wins. Tyler Carpenter is your, 2 in a row now, 19 and 21. And, of course, he's a colorful interview and everything. And like I said, only a race going on. Unique in the sense it's indoors. Lots of coverage, or they're throwing stuff on Facebook, etc. Anybody that has flow was probably watching some part of it because you got a little bit of the media crowd, the mod crowd, and everything. My question to you two is emotional and happy, and it's cool to see. Is he the kind of guy you want talking for the sport? Like I said, you might have all these new fans that are looking, you know what I mean? And like I said, we've talked about this for the last couple of weeks with all the big money. Maybe this will help us finally get over the hump and attract some sponsorship. But is that the guy you want as the face of dirt track racing? As happy as I am that he won.
Well, first of all, I mean, him winning 2 years ago, you can say it was a fluke, whatever. But winning it twice, I mean, you don't win a $30,000 race twice and have it be a fluke twice. So, I mean, he definitely has the talent to win this type of a race anyway. But yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, because part of winning this race now, he gets to race in a NASCAR race. And you know how NASCAR is. They're so politically correct. And, I mean, NASCAR doesn't even want you saying, "Let's go, Brandon." I mean, they are so politically correct that I'm sure he's going to be spoken to prior to that race and kind of be told, okay, this is how it's going to be. You got to refrain yourself a little bit here.
Well, it's kind of like you see in the movie Happy Gilmore, right? I think Jeff maybe sent this over, but you see in Happy Gilmore when Happy wins that tournament to get in, and Shooter McGavin's like, no, not like no. NASCAR's got to be going, no. But you got to remember, NASCAR's from the South, right?
Right.
I mean, it's bread and butter. North Carolina, South Carolina, that whole group, Alabama gang. I mean, they're straight redneck down there. Like, maybe they're looking at it going, finally one of us. Finally we get one of us.
I don't think they're smart enough. They should be saying that. I don't think they're smart enough.
Right. And so maybe that gets the grassroots deal from back in that deep South involved, because they're looking at Kyle Larson. They're looking at, the people now, they're all so, well, obviously Kyle Larson 2 years ago wasn't politically correct, right? But you look at this whole politically correct culture, and they're like, wait a second, one of us. This is our people, right? This is our guy. So it'll be interesting. But, talk a little bit about Kyle Larson. Talk about Tyler Carpenter. The first thing that I'll say that was impressive to me is how he won that race, right? Yellow, 3 to go. Right rear tire going down. And he was roasting the tires on the caution lap, trying to keep heat and trying to keep that thing with enough air in it to go the final 3 laps. If he would have just putted around, that tire would have went flat. He would not have won that race. So he had the presence of mind to keep that right rear enough air to keep it going, because as soon as he pulled down in the infield to victory lane, that right rear tire was on the rim. So I think part of the reason he was so emotional was because he knew that, like, if there was another caution, if there was a green-white checker, that race was over. It was done. He was not winning that race. I got a question for you two on Tiger, okay? I get it. We all like a story. We all like people that, like, hey, they came from not much, they don't have a lot of money, and they win the race. That's 95% of people in dirt track racing. Like, what's this dude talking about, right? Like, literally, 3/4 of the people in the dome are going, well, what's he bitching about? That's me and you and you and you. Like, that's everybody there. The story's good, right? But is it a little bit much? I mean, are you kind of sick of hearing him talk about, oh, I'm that broke kid and I ain't got no money, and kind of that whole narrative? Do you think he needs to maybe slow his roll on that deal a little bit?
Yeah, I think it played well the first year, you know, and then, but like Bert said, you won a $30,000 race. We know he's sold the merch galore after that. You know, it kind of put him on the map to come back. I mean, he had a special sponsor, right, for this race. You know, him and I think there was a mod that was dressed up the same way, right?
It's a graphics company. They lettered it. Yeah, impressive.
Oh, it's just a graphics company. Aggressive.
Aggressive.
Yeah. You know, I'm like, well, great, you're coming in with, like, I don't know, what would you want for a gig, like, you know, 3, 5, 10,000? I don't know what you're going to get. You're the only one on the car for like I said, a good crowd, a lot of streaming. So yeah, I think it was a good play the first year, but a little worn out now.
My guess is they didn't give him any money. My guess they lettered the car. So Bert mentioned that so many people are destroying shit down there, right? I mean, literally, they just pound on each other. What's crazy to me is just about every one of them started with a brand new body. You notice that? I mean, so they come in, they all put brand new bodies on to go to the dome. I mean, I get it, because you want to look cool. You're a nationally televised race. You know, it's all across the country. You want to look good, but it's like, you literally know the minute you put that body on, that the minute the race is done, there's nothing left of it, right? I mean, it is shredded. There was very few cars with tin left on.
And, well, I mean, the more popular drivers, you know, they can go about it this way. I mean, this is what Bobby Pierce did. He held some sort of contest where his body panels went to the winners of the contest. So, yeah, you know they're going to get destroyed, so you might as well make some more money off of them and have some sort of a contest and give them away then.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I saw a little bit of that. There was a few people that did that. And Puka, you mentioned Bobby Pierce, not really. I think he might have been the fastest guy on the track in the feature, but I think he spit a drive shaft, or he broke something. I think it was a drive shaft.
Right.
He was coming. He was impressive. He was charging to the front. I don't know that he would have won, because he had to pass quite a few cars, but it's not like he was slow. He was on the pump, and probably the race, as far as late models go, Bert alluded to it just a few minutes ago, probably the race of the weekend was probably BMA number 5, where Brandon Shepherd was put on a show.
Well, he put on a show in that B feature, and then, I mean, he was also coming in the feature also. If he wouldn't have had bad luck in the heat race, I think B-Shep would have won the dome. If he would have started, I mean, it's important to start in the front in these races. If you start in the back, I mean, it can be done, especially in the midgets. We'll talk about that.
Little cars.
But yes, in the modifieds and the late models, if you're not starting in the first 2 rows, your chances of winning are not good at all.
Well, you mentioned B-Shep there, and it wasn't the heat; it was that feature the first night, right? You know, he was in a 3-way battle with.
Oh, was it the feature? Okay, yeah.
And I think B-Shep was the fastest car on the track in that feature. I think, you know, he kind of got it on the outside, and Carpenter kind of was making his car wide, doing what he had to do. And RTJ, they got in the lap traffic in their Dyson, you know, and let's talk about it. This is one of those, you make the call, because you see all over Facebook, you know, night number 1 down there, there was an incident. Tyler Carpenter's leading the race, and then of course you got B-Shep and RTJ running second and third. They get into lap traffic, all hell breaks loose, right? RTJ's done. B-Shep right rear flat. Tyler Carpenter goes on to win, and like literally everybody's like, I mean, half of them are bashing on him, calling him a hack, and the other half are bashing on RTJ for his, colorful commentary after that. So let's start with the incident at hand, and then we'll talk a little bit more because it got pretty entertaining after that. But what's your take on the incident? Like, who would you have called that on if it would have been either one of you guys?
I mean, after watching it a couple times, Ryan, you sent this via text. I do think it probably was Zidar. I mean, ultimately, Zidar was the cause of the entire thing because he kind of bounced off the wall down into Carpenter, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he got dead sideways. I think he might have clipped the wall, then he was dead sideways. He come down, and Carpenter stayed in the pump, and his right door, back to the right door, and the right recorder panel slapped off him, and then everybody got destroyed. Puka, what was your take on that? How would you have called that if
wow.
Called him
yeah. I mean, I don't even know who got called because I had to watch that on a replay, that event, but so I'd already seen the social media stuff. So, but that's just, I mean, in that arena and that track, that's just like you said, right? It's just carnage. That's what's to be expected. And Carpenter said after the race, everything happens, and if you think, you're done. There's not enough time to think. So who got called on it?
No fault caution. Everybody that stopped enough. I mean, RTJ was done, right? B-Shep was done. The lap car. I mean, so basically they gave Carpenter his spot back. Everybody else was either done or I think Zidar was a lap down anyway. So
okay.
Yep.
So they didn't. Okay.
Then right after that, immediately they're all sitting there in the corner, and I love this. I just love this shit. Right? I think it's great. The guy with the mic and the camera, bam, immediately down to RTJ's car. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. And I know RTJ's, he can be a little bit vocal, but I've never seen quite this side of it, right? I mean, and I'll paraphrase it here. I mean, maybe you guys can remember exactly the quote, but that 28's an effing retard, and he just went off, and he's like, I hope somebody dumps his ass. And like I'm like, wow. Yeah. Wow. I'm like, in today's world, right? The F word or saying shit or whatever is one thing, but the R word that he said, I was surprised, right? I was like, wow. And then did you see what happened the next day, that night, the next morning? Did you see the press release basically from RTJ? So he gave $500 to the Special Olympics. I think it was maybe something in a regional deal of the Special Olympics. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think, A, that he just up and decided to do that on his own? B, his sponsor said, we got to do something here because that was bad, car owner? Or do you think, C, maybe Cody Sommer said, look, guys, I'm going to fine you. We're not going to call it a fine. You're going to do a donation. What do you think happened there? Because I have a hard time believing that he just on his own fruition said, well, I'm just going to go ahead and throw $500 at the Special Olympics. I just don't see that happening. What about you guys?
I mean, I don't know what happened. I mean, the only way to know is to be there. But my guess is that there was a meeting of the minds, and it was, okay, we have to do something because everything is PR these days. So they had to try to spin a good light on it.
Yeah, I think that had Cody Sommer all over. And did you notice how fast Cody got to Tyler Carpenter's car too after the win? And they kind of thought he had his head in the window for a while. And I think it was like, hey, this is great. Congratulations. But just take it easy on the mic.
Yeah, I don't know. He's pretty excited, and he had nothing to be mad about because he kept going. So he wasn't going to be mad. I was kind of wondering if he was down inside the car going, just so you know, RTJ called you an effing whatever. I was wondering if maybe I would have been trying to stir the pot. Let's get a good soundbite out of this guy, right? So, and then, of course, then following that, the next press release comes out. Tyler Carpenter gets a fine. He's wearing Hey Dude shoes. He didn't even have racing shoes on, right? And it's like, What's you guys' thoughts? Number one, I don't even know how much of a fine he got. I don't know if it was posted or how that all worked out.
I don't think they released the amount.
Oh, I thought they said $1,000.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe.
Well,
I thought
if
it was a little stiff.
if that's the case, then I guess Gundaker is paying his fine because Carpenter's supposed to get $1,000 from Gundaker because he finished better than him.
Right.
They had a bet.
Little side bet going on.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem. Now, I'm glad they could have DQ'd him, right? Because at Bristol, the guy that won, he didn't have his driver's gloves on. In one of the classes, he got disqualified. He didn't get the win. They stripped him of the win and everything. So what a big moment there where they could have very easily stripped him, and that would have taken away every chance he had at winning $30,000 on Saturday. Do you think the right move there is just a fine, or do you think they should have disqualified?
I think I'm going to say they did the right thing. I mean, if they really wanted to make a statement about safety, they should have disqualified him. But I think it was the right thing to just fine him.
Yeah, but I guess I can't find it here, but I thought I saw I thought it was a little steep, but he won $5,000, I think, on Thursday, right? But $1,000 for shoes. But I don't know. I mean, you're in the, how much do they stress safety, Ryan? I mean, I think from everything you said, they don't. Nobody really stresses safety enough. Is kind of the impression I get from the years we've done the show here.
Yeah, in most places they do not, and I don't have a problem with them stressing safety. I think it was the right call finding him and not disqualifying him because, at least it's enough to hit him in the pocketbook a little bit, but totally wrecking somebody's whole weekend over not having driving shoes on. My guess is he just forgot them at home. I mean, it's very easy, but I guarantee he won't race without them again.
I mean, the thing is, you go to a lot of local tracks and a lot of drivers aren't wearing fire retardant shoes.
I remember Gordy was talking about this. Gordy Lancaster, a good old legend from up in Bemidji, he used to wear cowboy boots racing. So I've seen all kinds of stuff. I remember when my dad raced, they wore jeans and t-shirt. And then I think they made a rule, and he could verify this, but I believe they made a rule where no more t-shirts. You got to go to long sleeve shirts, right? So that was the rule. Not fire retardant, just long sleeve shirts. There was no driving suits. I remember open face helmets, and I mean, safety's gone a long way. But at the end of the day, I think it's important. Safety really is important in dirt track.
Oh, I agree. I mean, here's a little trivia. Who's the driver from Wisconsin who wore wingtips in NASCAR races?
Was that Dick Trickle?
No.
Wingtips.
Dave Marcus.
Oh, that's right. I did hear that. Yeah.
Is it a Wisconsin guy?
Yeah, he's from the Wausau area.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't. Okay.
No, number 71, Puka, number 71.
Yeah. Mark, I liked him. Yeah.
So let's switch over to midget racing, little car racing. We want to be politically correct on the show. So little car racing, and Jonathan Beeson was the show, and I mean he won night one pretty easily. Night two, night three, there's an incident. Maybe right around halfway through the feature. It looked to me like the lapper, he was lapping a car, and that guy kind of crossed it up a little bit. And it's like he almost killed the motor a little bit, and he kind of wound up. And next thing you know, Beeson had nowhere to go. Basically, drove over him, got hooked. No fault caution deal. To the back he goes, and he stormed to the front. And in the closing laps, what do you think about that move with 2 or 3 to go, where he got to run on the outside, and he literally rolled the wall all the way down the back straightaway?
Well, like the announcer said, it was like Mario Karts. I mean, yeah, literally his tires were up on the wall as he's driving around the corner. That was crazy.
Broke the right rear shock, right? Broke the right rear shock. Obviously, got no right rear shock. But interesting, right? Because they come around 3 and 4 for the checkered flag. And a wreck happens, I believe, in 1 and 2 of the back straightaway. Nothing to do with it. And I'm talking like the leader, because he was second at the time, couldn't have been 10 feet from the flag stand.
Mm-hmm.
And they just didn't throw nothing. They went yellow, and they go back to the green and white together, checkered. So a 1-lap dash. And it was impressive. It was a show. It was exciting. Should they have thrown the checkered flag back?
Well, the announcer stated that, I mean, because it was the second place car that rolled over. So they said you can't have people racing back to the line when it's the second place car. Which, yeah, I can see that. I mean, tracks in my area, you know, if they throw a yellow like that, it's just the end of the race. If you take the white flag and the yellow comes out on the final lap, the race is over.
So what's your thoughts there? So Puka, I'll let you start here. So on that situation, obviously you can't race back to the flag because it was in 3 and 4. It's a safety deal because you don't want people driving right by a rollover car. So in your opinion, what's better? Just literally checkered flag, right? Or do you prefer the either one lap dash or green white checker deal at the end? What is the right way of doing it?
Got to finish the race. Got to finish the race. It's something that the NHL learned about 5 years ago, where they used to have ties, and then they started going to the shootout format because fans just said, "Look, we want to end." Now they just if they tie, they each get a point, I believe, but they just do the shootout for the fans. I don't think that the shootout really means anything, or they do the 3-on-3. They do a 3-on-3 for like 3 minutes, and then they go to the shootout. But
they still get 2 points for a win in the NHL.
No, yeah, exactly. You get 2 points for the win on the 3-on-3, but if you end up going to the shootout, I think it's considered a tie. They just do the shootout for the fans, just so somebody wins.
Is it? I thought the winner got 2 and the loser in the shootout got 1 still.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to check it. I guess I just remember when the rule came out, but I was just happy that someone was going to conclusively win, you know. So, right. But no, I think you gotta, assuming you're within the time limits. Okay, let's go there for a minute. But you're within the time limits. You know, do a green white checkered and finish the race. What do you think, Bert?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with doing. Well, they don't even do a green white check. I mean, they do a green and check or green and white together, and then they race for one final lap. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but I mean, it definitely cost the guy who was leading that race. It cost him $10,000. Well, it cost him the win and the winnings with it. But I mean, yeah, I mean, you could debate this all day long as to which is better.
I know as long as they do it the same every time,
right?
I'm okay with that, and that's like our local racing, right? You look at Wasota, every track's got a different rule on that, which is crazy. See, that's something that needs to be addressed by all these sanctioning bodies. Is however they end, it needs to be the same every single time. Not one time we're going to do this, one time we're going to do that, one time we're going that. You can't do that. It has to be even. As a fan, I'm telling you, they were not disappointed. Because when that dude came from dead last and he passed on the last lap to take the win, the place absolutely erupted. And the majority of people there are late model fans, but they were extremely ecstatic because of the level of excitement it brought. On the other hand, that would have cost me a national championship because there was an incident with me and Dave Moss where he gave me a flat tire and shoved me off the end of the track. And they went back to the last completed lap. That's how they scored it. And if they wouldn't have, I might still be in jail right now. So that would not have been a very good deal. So
no, that'd be called prison. That'd be called prison.
That might be prison, yeah. So it just depends what side of the spectrum you're on there. But another thing, you know, the midgets, they talked about it, guys, and they're not having them back. So they signed a 3-year extension here at the Dome, right? But they're not bringing midgets back in 2022. What's your thoughts on that?
I was disappointed to hear that because, to be honest, the midgets probably put on the best show of the 3 divisions there. I mean, it like you said, they're little cars. I mean, the cars are smaller, so there's more track for them to race on in comparison to the late models and the modifieds. So I was a little disappointed when I heard that. Did they announce why they're not having them back?
They didn't announce why, but I'm assuming, you know, they had a lot of people that said, "Hey, yeah, we're coming." They invited them, but they didn't even have enough cars. What they wanted to do is just like they did with the mods, is they wanted to have a full show on Thursday, a full show on Friday of split field, and then have the, you know, kind of the same format they did with the mods. But they only had enough for one field of cars. There was only mid-20s or low 20s in car count. And they look at all the midgets that are around that region, right? There's tons in that area. And they're like, they didn't come. Like, if they're not going to support the show, why have them? That would be my guess. And let's face it, the Chili Bowl, that's still a few weeks away. There's plenty of time to get ready for the Chili Bowl. So I was disappointed in the car count. I mean, they put on a hell of a show, yeah. They did. But as far as the car count goes, on the promoter side of things, you're like, look, if they're not supporting our event, why invite them? And the show's long. Let's face it, it's made for Puka, right? It started at 3. Even the last day started at 3 and it ended at like 11. It was like an 8-hour show. So if I had one complaint about the whole deal, it would be the length of the show. And now they kind of shrink that down, and maybe it'll be more fan friendly to where you're not there for an 8-hour shift. So that might actually be, and maybe they can invite more mods. Maybe they can invite 20 more modifieds or whatever, to kind of have a little bit bigger field there and a couple more heats. I would hope so, because there's a lot of Wasota drivers that definitely would. I think they'd represent quite well down there.
Before we leave the little cars, we've talked a lot about safety on this show. If I was a midget driver, I would want the side panels on my roll cage. I think it was the Beeson accident where his front tire actually went into the cockpit of the other driver and pinned the other driver in his seat. You could see on the camera the guy's punching the tire because it was up against his body.
Yeah, it was right against his shoulder. You're exactly right. That was, you don't see that often, but all it takes is one time. That guy could very easily had a broken shoulder, broken arm or whatever. So, those things are dicey. Them midgets, they start rolling over, and you never know when they're going to stop, and things get dicey. And that's why, as a fan, that's why we like it. That's why we like the Chili Bowl. They got the flip count. It's exciting is what it is. And they slide job. They're so dicey. But the safety thing is, that is a concern.
Speaking of the flip count, did you guys catch the drone rollover?
Did it hit Gunmaker's car? Is that whose car?
Yes.
I did.
It hit his car. Well, it hit the sail panel or something, and then it rolled over and was laying on his deck. So he had to stop and have the official take the drone off his deck.
Yeah, Puka, they were wrecking so much shit they even wrecked the drone down there. It's like, good grief. It's crazy. So out of all the drivers that were there, okay, if you had to pick one, right? And I'm not going to first of all, a huge congratulations to Tyler Peterson. I mean, I was super pumped. The one person I wanted to watch down there, we always like watching our guys, the people from our area, and for him to represent Wasota Modified Racing, to go down there and get it done, that was phenomenal. I mean, that's something that he'll never forget. To win on a stage like that, he's won some big stuff, but to win on a stage like that, man, that's just exciting. So proud of him for that. But if there was a driver that stuck out more than anybody to you, for what they were able to accomplish over the weekend or something they did, just give me one. Who's somebody that stuck out to you?
Well, I didn't see much of the racing, but I said the first night, Bloomquist in the heat, and then even when the way he split down the backstretch, and came into 3 and 4, and obviously hit the front of his car and wrecked things. But I thought maybe he was we talked about he hasn't won, and I thought, well, maybe this is it. He looked like he dominated that heat race. But yeah, so that my pick would be Bloomer. How about you guys?
And before we jump onto you there, Bert, I was talking to the gentleman I went down there with, and we're talking to Bob, and he's like, this sounds like this is it for Bloomquist. Like, he's done for the year, right? This could be the first time, right? We talked about this before. I don't know if there's been a season where he's never won a feature race.
Well, he said that. I think he said that in his interview on Thursday. He said, well, we're looking. I think it was the pre-race. He said, well, yeah, we're looking for a win here. We haven't ever gone a season without a win. So, yeah, I'm assuming he's done. Unless he snags onto an extreme. I don't even know I think the extreme races are after the new year now. I don't think there's another.
Yeah, I know there's nothing this weekend. So I think Billy Moyer even won a feature or two this year, didn't he? I'm pretty confident that Moyer got one done. So Scott Bloomquist now winning. That's story stuff right there. That's big news. Scott Bloomquist winless in 2021. Bert, who stuck out to you?
Well, I'm gonna list 2 drivers. One didn't have the results he wanted, but honestly, Brandon Shepard probably put on the best show of any of the late model drivers there. I mean, he was battling for the lead in the first in his preliminary night feature, and then was involved in that wreck. Had a awesome B feature where he won it at the very end, and he was charging on the high. I mean, he was one of the few drivers that could make the high side work. And I mean, after his B feature win, they interviewed him. I have a feeling he'll be coming back until he wins this race, because he said he was on a mission. It was part of his mission to win this race. So I have a feeling he'll be back again. But probably the driver that stuck out the most is Nick Hoffman, because he was competitive in all three divisions. He raced in all three, and he was in contention in all three.
And that's who I was going to go with, was old Hoffman. He's on the podium, and he had to do an engine change in the late model the first night after time trials. So to be able to get that done, get back out there for the heat, and transition over to finishing on the podium. I mean, not that he did it, his crew did, obviously, right? Because he has racing three cars. But what a weekend for Hoffman on the podium in all three. I was a little shocked. I honestly thought, him starting third row, he kind of got there. I'm like, I think he's probably going to win this deal. Like, I thought maybe he'd have something for Tyler Peterson. And you talked a little bit about Bishop. Wow, does he have some fans down there? I'm telling you, when they announced his name, he probably got a bigger eruption than most drivers there. Lots of Brandon Shepherd fans. But a 16-year-old kid, Michael Ledford, I believe he started 11th in that A main in the modified division. And he charged up to second. And if not for a caution, that kid's winning this race. He got underneath Tyler Peterson for the lead. Yellow comes out. I'm like, oh boy, he better get his butt down to the bottom at 3 and 4. And then he did. He went right down to the bottom, plugged the bottom, never looked back, had a little separation. But without that yellow, that 16-year-old kid, just a quiet, glasses and stuff, just kind of you could tell he's really young, second generation guy. That kid's going to be talented. Keep an eye on track champion over at Fairbury in the UMP Modifieds this year, 16 years old, and they got some hitters there. We're talking Falls. They got some really good race car drivers. This kid is flat out talented at 16 years old. Keep an eye on him for sure. And, I actually went down there. I was not sure if I was going to go. I didn't go Thursday. I didn't go Friday. But Bob and Michelle Jensen from over in Watertown, South Dakota, big supporters of dirt track racing. They're over at the Casino Speedway. They actually, he pits for Morgan Ward, and he's been around Scott Morgan, helped them for years. I know they sponsor some stuff, but they were super nice. They're a little disappointed in you two, okay? Because they had tickets for you guys, and they said, you guys need to get your butt down there next year, okay? Because he was hoping to get you guys all up in the booth too. But they had a booth down there basically right behind the flag man, and I was able to go there. J.R. Tardy was with us, and then Dave Dulciak. So we got to sit up in the booth, and huge thank you to him, and of course Michelle for letting us do that. And then I want to give another shout out to my buddy Dustin, who pits for Kyle Hammer, who only a handful of nights in a late model, and he finished in the top 4 in the prelim night, got himself in the redraw, got into a little trouble there on a first lap deal where he got, basically spun out and got put to the back, and he just went downhill. But he's going to be following the World of Outlaw this year. They're going down to Florida in January, and essentially they're going to stay down there all the way through Speed Weeks. So they actually, it's kind of a cool deal. I felt spoiled, guys. They gave me a parking pass. I was talking to Dustin. He said, I'll go and get you a pass. I got to park right in by their hauler. So that was kind of a cool deal. So it was literally like walking right across the street to get in, and 3 passes to get in, thanks to Bob and Michelle. So that had a great time. And what an experience. If you guys, we've been to a lot of events, and I want to talk about this, right? We've been to USA Nationals. Bert, you've been to the World 100. We've been to all these different events. A little different feeling to it. It's got that indoor, it's got a little vibe, it's got energy, quite a spectacle. And the track, quite honestly, in person, the track's a lot bigger than what I thought it was. It's small, it's a bull ring, but obviously there's good corners. You can hustle the high side, run the bottom. There's plenty of straightaway there. The track was surprisingly bigger. Of course, it's narrow, it's in a dome, but it was bigger than what I thought it would be. So had a great time down there. Another thing, sketchy area town, right? Sketchy area town.
Oh, it is.
So I think they had 2 trailers got stolen a couple of years ago. And they were even talking on the broadcast, people's cars getting broke into and all kinds of stuff. So I was thankful I got to park where I did. It's in such a bad area of town that the fire hydrants had drinking fountains on them for the homeless people. that you're in a rough area of town when fire hydrants have drinking fountains. I've never seen that in my entire life. Of course, you couldn't do that in northern Minnesota. They'd all be frozen, right? And I saw that. I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen that in my life before. Garbage everywhere. Just not a real ritzy part of town down in downtown St. Louis. I can tell you that much. Like I said, the 3-year extension, no midgets, drinking fountains. The flagman. Did you notice the flagman?
I noticed it the first night. Yeah.
Wore a helmet.
Yeah.
The flagman wearing a helmet. I get it because there's dust flying and all that, and he's right there on top of the action. But I don't believe I've ever seen a flagman with a helmet on.
I have seen that before. I can't remember where, but I have seen that before.
I thought that was pretty interesting. And then I actually had an opportunity to have a conversation with Kyle Strickler. He was in a booth a couple over, and I said, Kyle, why don't you have a car here? And his pit guy says, because he has common sense, right? Because he would have destroyed shit. He goes, my car's right here. So he was drinking a adult beverage. So let's just say that. But I got to ask him a few questions. And I said, Kyle, I said, first of all, what's your plans, right, for 2022? So is it Donaldson? Is that what it is? That was his original sponsor. He's back with his original sponsor. And I said, are you going to follow a series? Are you going to follow Lucas, World of Outlaws, XR, Flow? What are you going to do? And he's like, we're not going to follow a series. We're going to do late model racing, super late model racing, but we're going to just chase the money. Okay. He goes, we don't intend to follow anything in particular. He goes, but it's gotten to the point. He goes, where I don't know that I'll unload my car unless it's at least 20,000 to win.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we talked about that. And it's like, well, there you go. I mean, you look at all the XR races, every single one of them is a minimum of 25,000 to win. The flow races, the Castro Flow Racing Night in America, 22,000 to win. And I don't have the count in front of me, but Lucas Oil, right? That series has, I feel like they must have 15 of them that are over 20, right? And the World of Outlaw has a bunch that are over 20 as well. So you look at all these races, I think you're going to see more and more people maybe doing that Brandon Overton approach where we're just going to chase the money and do that. So I thought that was interesting. So then I asked him, I said, what's your thoughts with the World of Outlaws? He's like, well, it's that time of year right now where nobody's going to commit to anything, right? They're gonna play their game down in Florida, try to get their provisionals, do whatever they got to do. He's like, I just don't understand why anybody would follow the World of Outlaws right now. If you're going to follow a series, he's like, yeah, Lucas would be the one because there's way more money on the line. He goes, but it's not looking good. They got to make some changes. And one thing that I actually talked to Brent Larson as well, who is a World of Outlaw regular, right? And it sounds like there's been a little turmoil with the World of Outlaws. Okay. So the drivers for a couple of years in a row now have kind of coordinated together. And they said, look, last year they got together and they said, we need more start money. Okay. They need more start money. And it went from 700 to 1,000. So they changed some stuff, but it sounds like that the several drivers throughout kind of the early part of the season last year had huge issues with Casey Schumann, like lots of issues. And they called a powwow. They got together and they addressed it. And they said, look, like this ain't happening. He needs to be more professional. And we've seen Casey. He's pretty volatile, right? I mean, remember the incident, him climbing up in the flag stand when he was driving sprint cars and he's high-tempered. And it sounds like he's not a guy that you were able to have a conversation. If you had a disagreement, he'd just go, boom, Mach 10, and he'd just fly off the handle. And it sounds like after that meeting, it got a little bit better. But there's a little trouble in paradise there with some of the drivers. And Madden's somebody that's on the fence, but he's pretty confident, Brent was, and he doesn't know this for sure, but he's pretty confident that Brandon Shepherd still plans to follow the World of Outlaws in 2022. That's his prediction. Yep. So, and he also said this, he goes, nothing really gets decided until really there's that I think it's Farmer City or whatever is kind of the first time where World of Outlaws and Lucas compete against each other. Up until that point, there's no overlap, right? Yeah. So at that point is when drivers can say, hey, I'm in the hunt or I'm not in the hunt. And one of the big complaints with the World of Outlaw drivers is they're like, look, we believe that if you need to commit early, because you have drivers coming in maybe that aren't intending to follow the series, that are essentially hijacking the provisionals early on in the year. And he's like, you should have to commit early if you're going to follow the series. And they feel like they need to have a little bit more, they need to have the backs of the drivers that follow the series. And I think that's something they're going to have to look at. So between Brent Larson and Kyle Strickler, some pretty good conversations there. And Strickler said he was pulling for Hoffman. He goes, I don't really want him to win in the modified, though. He goes, we've been bitter rivals in the modified. He goes, I want him to win in the late model. I'd love to see him win in the midget. He goes, anybody but Hoffman in the modified, because he goes, we might have a little rivalry there, he said.
Well, and speaking of Hoffman, I mean, we talked about this on the show when Dirt Car changed their modified rules, body rules. Watching this race, the camera's up high, so you can see the car kind of from up top, and his car is not straight. I mean, his car is slanted this way and that way, and now I kind of have a better understanding maybe of why they want more uniform rules.
Yeah, and I don't think it mattered at the Dome. I think they're just hoping to have a body on the car at the end of the race is kind of a pretty good plus for them guys over there. So, fan question of the week, guys. And I'm going to ask both of you this question. Puka, we'll start with you. Fan question of the week brought to you by Cowboy Up Racing. Of course, Shane Howell, the L1. Is the Gateway Dirt Nationals a crown jewel?
Yeah, I don't think so yet. It's big, it's unique, it's fun, it's going to grow. Like I said, it's incredibly unique. Lacks the tradition. It lacks, really lacks in number. If you say a crown jewel needs to have maybe half the field's professional drivers, that certainly isn't the case there. They just got, you can just kind of show up. So you get some big names, you get all the big names, but it is cool and unique, and I really like it, but not a crown jewel, at least not yet.
Bert?
I kind of my sentiment is pretty much the same as what Puka's is. I thought about this a lot over the last couple of days. I mean, it's definitely a unique event. It gets a lot of attention because it's really the only event going on, and now with Flow Racing, where you can watch it, I think the viewership is going to get to be a lot more. But my big hiccup on calling it a crown jewel is, how can you call something a crown jewel when the majority of the national drivers don't even attend it?
Yeah, I mean, they're just, let's be honest, they're pussies. Or maybe they're smart financially, one or the other, whichever way you want to go.
I understand why they don't attend it, but it's hard to call something a crown jewel if you don't have the best of the best there.
Yeah, and let's face it, most of the top, some of the top guys, Davenport, who arguably was a top 2 guy, right, in 2021, he was there. Brandon Shepard, who World of Outlaw champion, he was there. But you're right. You look at it, you don't have T-Mac, you don't have Overton, and they're not really attracted to it. And Dave, my buddy, touched on this. He goes, because there's a lot of luck involved, right? You just have to stay out of trouble, and put yourself in position, because if you start deep, it's tough to get through the pack without a lot of luck on your side. Your chances of getting wrecked starting 4th, 5th row is greater than your chances of finishing on the podium. So that's part of it. But ultra unique. I agree. I don't believe it's a crown jewel yet. But I believe that it has the luster, kind of the feel of a crown jewel. Like, it has that prestige. Maybe not for a guy like Davenport, but obviously Brandon Shepard alluded to the fact that it's important to him to get that one done. And you look at, it's kind of, they call it the great equalizer. You don't need that huge budget. You don't need that. You just need to have some brass balls and get her done. But to win that, there's fans, guys, from all over the country. Like, people flying in from, I'm talking everywhere. I met people from Arizona, from Georgia, from New York. I met people literally that flew there for that race that were dirt fans. There's not many dirt races, right? There's not many that have that kind of a draw. where people are coming from so many places to watch. And then on top of it, right, you know, obviously it's on Flow, but it's a standalone event. Yeah, they had the Extreme Dirt Car Series, but that's just a little regional deal out in the Southeast. I mean, this is a national event that pretty much there was dirt track fans throughout the entire country tuned in on Flow Racing watching this event. So it's a huge stage, but I don't think it has the staying power. Like it's year 5, right? So I think you got to be, I'll just ask you guys this. How many years do you think you got to be an event to be considered a true crown jewel? How many years? Is there a certain threshold there?
Oof, maybe double digits. I don't know. I guess I'd have to think about that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And well, I mean, that kind of leads to the question of, do you need national drivers at an event for it to be a crown jewel?
I mean, you need some. I think you need
some, yeah, but I mean, do you need how many national drivers do you need for it to be considered a crown jewel?
That's a good question. I don't know how many, but I mean, you look at it and the popularity of it, right? And they had plenty. I mean, let's just off the top of our head, you had Bishop, you had Davenport, you had RTJ, Pierce, right? So that would, I would say, it would be the top 4. And then there's good regional drivers, of course, like Gundaker's and Tyler Carpenter's good in his region. You know, so you start looking at that, and it draws some. But I was surprised to maybe not see a guy like Brian Shirley there. Doesn't live that far away in Chatham, maybe a couple hours away. I was surprised by that. I was surprised to not see Dennis Erb Jr., who lives in, Carpentersville, 4 or 5 hours away in Illinois. A couple of these guys I was surprised. Now, their budgets ain't I don't think their budgets are as high as like a Davenport's or whatever. I don't know that for sure. Certainly higher than Tyler Carpenter's budget. So I think some of them are like, I don't think they want to destroy their stuff. But, you know, let me ask you this too. Let's go to the racing circuits. You know, you see some people like, oh, the track's too rough. Would the racing be that good if it wasn't?
Well, I mean, actually, it was hard to make up ground in 1 and 2, and 1 and 2 was smooth.
Right.
Most of the passing actually was taking place in 3 and 4, I think, and those were the 2 rough corners.
Yeah, Puka.
Yeah, I don't mind the rough there. I mean, it adds it's fun, and the cars are bouncing, and yeah. Well, I mean, if it was smooth, I mean, maybe they could get a little bit more momentum. The problem that they have there too is you don't want the cars going too fast, right? I mean, you don't want them launching. Right. You can't, so they've got that fine line of they want to encourage some passing, but maybe that roughness will slow them down a little bit because it's they're only going to get faster and better every year, and then it could get more and more dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. You start seeing cars fly up in the grandstands or whatever, or parts flying up. No, I think you're right. As a racer, as somebody that's always on a budget racing, you see them holes and you're like, wow, that looks expensive. But it's not like you're on a rough half-mile track. You're on a rough fifth-mile track where it's still rough. It's still hard on stuff, right? It still is, but not as hard on stuff as if the track is a bigger racetrack. So I think you can get by with a rough racetrack when it's that small. And I'll be honest, I mean, the place was jam-packed and they weren't hurting for car count. So,
right.
Well, I want to make one other point about, I think it was the second night in the late model division. Almost all of the heat race winners were, I will say, unknown drivers. And actually, that's not necessarily bad for the sport. I mean, it gives them some recognition. Plus, it kind of shows that, hey, you don't have to be a national driver to come here and win. So, I don't think having regional drivers doing some winning is a bad thing.
Well, it's kind of that David versus Goliath thing that Pete has alluded to in the past. You look at that first night or the redraw, the top 8 that were in the redraw. Tanner English would really be the only one that you could consider kind of he was Lucas Oil Rookie of the Year a couple of years ago. He's been on the national scene, but then you had Tyler Carpenter, right, who's a regional driver. Miles Moose. Who's that other the dude that lettered the car? He got third the second night.
Oh,
yeah, Christensen, or I don't remember what his name is. There you go. I don't even remember his name, right?
Yeah,
So you're looking at this, and it was basically all regional drivers, right? You had Jody Knowles from down in the south. They're like, I don't know if this dude's ever raced north of the Mason-Dixon line. Like, he's never been up north anywhere, and that's not even north. That's in St. Louis, right? Central part of the country. So you see all these guys. So, Bert, you're exactly right. There was no national drivers. Now, the national drivers, most of them started 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th row. So then they kind of had to dice and slice for it. So Tanner English, I thought maybe he was going to give him a run. He started on the front row. He just never really had a legit shot. Carpenter was good. He really was. That turn and burn. So I have a question for Puka here. I sent Brett Massengale a text message after that, and I said, kryptonite greater than sniper, right? Because
I thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because think about this. Jeffrey Massengale 2 years ago in that kryptonite was unbelievable. I mean, he had a hell of a season, so good on the bottom. That type of track, like that. If Jeffrey Massengale brought the 6M down there with SOTA legal, right, with that setup that he runs around the bottom with that kryptonite, he'd probably run pretty darn good there, right? That's his type of racetrack. That turn and burn. Not sure about the holes, but that point and shoot. And that right there just goes to show, I mean, a kryptonite chassis got this done, right? We talked about this 2 years ago when it happened. It's not a XR1 rocket. It's not a Longhorn, right? It's a kryptonite, just a locally little built deal over in West Virginia, parking in Victory Lane. So I think this event as a whole, so good for the sport, puts it on the map. A lot of people watching it, a lot of excitement. Not necessarily a crown jewel. Does it have the potential to become?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then you guys, I got to run here at 7:30 here, so I'll give you my last thing, and I'll have to drop off here. But no, yeah, it definitely has the potential. Like I said, it's a good event. It's a growing event. All that good stuff. It just, like I said, I think he's probably still need a few more. Like I said, the crowd's good, but I still think you need a few more competitors to really, to say that trophy, it means something in front of fans, like you said, all over the country and everything. But as far as respect from other drivers, I don't know, maybe that's more of a question for you, Ryan. But, did you really go there and kind of look around and say, boy, I really beat the best,
Yeah, well, let's just say that he beat some of the best. He did that. Yeah. So we're almost done here anyway. So let's jump on over to the picks of the week, right? The picks of the week, Bert, Jeff, Puka. You guys all had Hoffman on day 2, and out of everything else, that's it. So, Bert, you jumped ahead. You're ahead by one more. You're at 37. I'm at 34. Jeff and Puka each gained 1, and I'm telling you what, I don't know how much racing's left, but we're going to have to dig some stuff up to try to make it happen. But let's go with this.
Hey, do you know Leo Burkhardt, Miser? Maybe he could schedule a race for you.
I might get a hold of Leo. We're going to have to schedule something in Rapids, maybe have a 1-2 car race over there.
And are you gonna check the iRacing schedule?
Yeah, I might have to do that. There's an idea. I picked. I'll take Johnny Broken. That's what I'll take. So this week we don't really have a must-see event of the week, right? There really isn't one. So let's go with our sure bet, right? Our sure bet, not obviously a sure bet, just in general, but our sure bet of the week, of course, brought to you by J. Schmidt Real Estate. 20 years in the business world. If you need real estate in land, if you need commercial, residential in the state of South Dakota, for racers, by racers, your sure bet, your lock of the week is J. Schmidt Real Estate. So this week, right now, with what's going on, if you said, man, this is kind of my lock of the week, this is my sure bet, what comes to mind? Anything for you guys?
Mine's a little off the wall, but anybody who loves the history of racing, my sure bet is that you will love the new book, the 5-10-32 McBride Parker Avalink book. I had a chance to read it, and it's really good. Joe Vertigan had his first book signing on Saturday. I went to that. It was fun hanging out, talking racing on a Saturday afternoon in a bar. That's where I spent my Saturday afternoon. So that was fun. And Vertigan also interviewed some Western Wisconsin drivers and got their input about those 3 drivers. So that was cool hearing their perspective. And Pete Parker shared Tom Nesbitt's story one time when Nesbitt borrowed Parker's backup car.
And that's good stuff right
there. We did hear that one time.
That. Puka, did you know that? Did you know that story?
No, haven't heard that. We'll have to get it out one day.
Right, we're gonna have to get that book. Post a picture of that book on the page and places where people can get it, because that'd be pretty cool for the fans to see. Puka, your lock of the week.
Well, PRI is when? Is it next weekend already?
This week, yeah.
Okay. Week. So I'll just, my lock of the week is there's going to be news. I don't know what the news is going to be, but there's always news that comes out of PRI. So looking forward to that.
It's the silly season. Something's coming. My lock of the week is this. You're going to see more WISSOTA modified drivers at the 2022 Gateway Dirt Nationals. He went down there. Tyler Peterson put on a hell of a show. He represented, and that shows right there that some of the best modified drivers in the country are from our region, and they deserve to be down there. So let's get to the last. Go ahead.
A comment on that. The announcers did give WISSOTA modified drivers some love during the modified feature, stating that there's some really good modified drivers in WISSOTA.
They did, and Tyler Peterson gave the Casino Speedway some love because it ain't that terribly much bigger than that track, and he's really, really good there. So the last lap brought to you by Zuli Race Engines. Of course, Frank Billing winners, national championship this year for Parker Anderson. He was a couple booths over from me. This is the time of year. Get on the list. Get your stuff freshened. Get a brand new engine coming for the 2022 season. Tell you what, all you got to do is look at his Facebook page, and you'll see every single week there's winners running Zuli Race Engines. So this week, little bit of news in the open wheels. Did you see Nick Hoffman was racing this past weekend? Who's racing at the Tulsa Shootout?
Am I up?
Go ahead. Well, I'll say RTJ is racing in the Tulsa Shootout.
RTJ, yep.
Yeah, so he posted that they're even looking for help. So maybe if you want to help them out, contact them.
So that'll be interesting. I tell you, the kid's a wheel, man. You run them on, you run late, and Nick Hoffman showed that he did it with a podium finish. Ricky Thornton Jr. over and under, top 5 finish. You think you can get her done a top 5 at the Tulsa Shootout?
No, under.
No, he won't. He won't win.
I don't think he's going to win, but I think he's got a shot to get a top 5. I think I'm going to predict top 5 for RTJ. Little news in the late model world, right? You saw a little glimpse of this over at the Duel in the Desert in Vegas. What do you got there, Bert?
Well, Josh Richards apparently has a ride. We'll be driving a second Boom Briggs car. So they haven't decided which series they're going to race, though. So, as you said, you don't have to make a decision this early.
Yeah, they won't decide that until part way. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, what do you guys think? I think the best Josh Richards has looked in like the last 3 years was in Boom's car in Vegas. Do you think that's going to be a good fit?
Yeah, maybe that change of scenery is all he needs. Burst was saying it for a long time. Yeah, like I said, he wasn't too bad in Vegas. It seems like a step down, though, like a big step down in a way, but our speculation was he was going to go home to Rocket. And as of right now, Brandon Shepard's still in the Rocket ride, right? Maybe that news will come this week, but, it sounds
maybe this will be like a satellite rocket team. I don't, who knows?
Well, I did a little digging, and everything I heard says that Brandon Shepard is likely going to be in the Rocket ride, the Rocket 1 for 2022. There's been some speculation and some rumors, but I think some of them are false. So I'm anticipating him being in that same ride. The interesting story will be who's going to take over the Boyer ride, who's going to jump into that. Maybe a fit for Nick Hoffman. Just saying, he's kind of in that area. That'd be interesting to see. Little racetrack. We talked about SK being sold. Another track got sold this last weekend. Puka?
Yeah, Golden Isle. It's kind of crazy. Kyle Bronson, Florida's own, buying the Golden Isle Speedway, kinda. He and his wife, right? Was on the press release?
That's what it said. But I got a little information down here. I talked to some. Actually, when I was over talking to Strickler in his whole group, right? They said Kyle Bronson did not buy nothing. They're like, that dude ain't got no money. He didn't buy nothing. What the hell are they talking about? It said it. It says it in the article that Kyle Bronson bought it. They're like, he didn't buy nothing. Evidently, his car owner, now this is kind of the story. This came from the Strickler camp over there. They said his car owner is the one who bought it. Maybe like he's giving it to him. I know Bronson's going to live there. They got like a triple wide house or whatever, like a triple wide trailer on the lot, and he's going to live there. And like he might take care of the grounds and all that. But they're like, when I brought that up, I'm like, what do you think about Bronson buying a race? He didn't buy no racetrack. That's bullshit. He ain't got no money. So I'm like, all right, fair enough. So I thought that was kind of an interesting deal. But yeah, Golden Isle Speedway, Brunswick, Georgia. And if you remember, just I don't know, it wasn't that long ago. It was a 5/8 mile track, and they had Coke syrup on it. Remember that place was so crazy fast. That remember Bloomquist, Moyer, some of those guys are like, you got to slow this place down. It's unsafe. Remember that?
Yeah.
So
yeah, they did some of those races last year during quarantine. Right? They put 4 or 5 nights in a row.
Yeah,
I remember 2020 and filmed them. It was good. Yeah.
Yeah, they did. So yeah, you have last weekend Kyle Larson, right, and Brad Sweet taking over Silver Dollar Speedway. This year you got Kyle Bronson somehow involved with acquiring the Golden Isle Speedway. We'll find out. I don't know if he's going to be a hands-on guy or if he's going to focus on racing. But that brings us any closing thoughts, guys. Episode 109 in the book. Just a couple weeks away from Christmas here. We're getting close, and we got the power rankings just about getting ready to roll here. So fans look forward to that. The top 25 and all 5 classes, the buyracers.com power rankings. I'll be talking to you guys, of course, about the late model stuff, and I'll take the other 4 classes. But any closing thoughts before we call it a night?
No, I mean, it's December, and really this is the first that the racing season is slowing down, and, it's kind of amazing.
Yeah, I agree. We're finally nothing on the schedule.
Yeah, I was looking at my race pass. I was looking at Flow. I was looking at Dirt Vision, and I'm like, I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's anything going on. So, and I see Bert's wearing a purple sweatshirt, so he's a Vikings fan, which we don't need to talk about football today because that did not go real well. So it is what it is. But, guys, always a pleasure talking racing. Bert posts that info, of course, on that book because I'd like to get my hands on one of those as well. And look forward to chatting racing again next week. Puka, bring us home.
All right. That concludes the show, everybody. Please like, share, and subscribe. Christmas is coming. Ryan's got swag on. I got some swag on. Get a hold of us if you'd like some swag. Thank you to our partners, Dirt Track Supply, buyraceshirts.com, Cowboy Up Racing, Zuli's Racing Engines, Blue Line Brews. Comment, below, or theonetogoshow@gmail.com. Find us on TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, and YouTube. Get out there and be your dream. You're tuned to The One to Go Show.